This is Ask the Mayor on KWBE, our Thursday morning program. We have with Beatrice City Government and Mayor Stan Worth. The mayor is off on other business today, and we have with us Beatrice City Administrator and Board of Public Works Manager Tobias Tempelmeyer. Good morning, Tobias.
Good morning.
Good to have you in today.
It's a pleasure being here.
A little while here. We'll take a couple of or three questions here from callers here in a second, but Tuesday night, a little bit of stormy action, had some green on the streets and everything, and I guess people, have a way to get rid of that, if I remember right, if they have a couple of options at least.
That's right. I think we put a post out there on our social media that if the branches came down, were small enough, 16 inches or something like that, they can fit into your trash, and you kind of bundle them up and put them in there. If they're a little bigger, you can run them out to the landfill. I think it's $5 a vehicle to have them disposed of out there. I know the electric department got called out with an outage on North 19th Street, and they worked that for a couple of hours, got everybody back up and on. And then street crews, I think they're out right now working on street sweepers, picking up all the leaves and everything else that came down with the storm. And so other than that, I think things went okay for us. Don't
sweep it into the storm sewers, right?
That's right.
The one thing you want to avoid. And this must be kind of tough to do that because there was a lot of debris from that. We had hail for, 10 or 15 minutes, I'd say?
It was the longest I remember it hailing at one time.
Yeah, it was really stripped a lot of trees around the area, did some trimming that maybe people didn't want, but we got through it all right. At least it wasn't like, last December 15th when you had the bigger storm that came through. Remember the big windstorm and did some damage downtown, so, yeah. Some questions from callers. One of them, and just came in today, is mosquito spraying. Usually you get into this time of year, you have one round of spraying by now. What's the status on that?
So we generally spray right around Homestead Days. It's usually when we start our spraying operation. We do have our traps out. We monitor those. Speaking with Jason Moore the other day, the first trap we had out was out in the Hannibal Park area, and what we came back with was a count of 1.
Wow.
We had 1 mosquito out of that. A bunch of other gnats and bugs and whatnot that are out biting you and those type of things, but our mosquito spray doesn't work on those insects. But right now we are monitoring them, and when the traps get high enough, we'll spray.
Usually, it's 4 times a year, somewhere around there?
We try to do 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Usually Homestead Days, 4th of July, and then a couple more as the season kind of goes on, with the last one being sometime in October. Mm-hmm. Is kind of what we typically do.
Main concern, West Nile virus, which we don't hear a lot about anymore, it seems like, but it's still a threat or possibility out there.
Right, it's a threat, and you can get into the science of it, but those types of diseases usually show up a little late in the season, which is why we spray a little later.
Okay. Another question from a caller. It's about an apartment complex located at 18th and May. Is it in the process of being demolished, or what's the status on that?
We've had a lot of conversations about this particular property. Mm-hmm. So yes, we have been in contact with the property owner and their attorney, and we are working through some timelines to have them demolish that building, that structure there. Obviously, they have tenants, and so those tenants have their rights that they need to walk through and make sure that they give them due notice and all that stuff so that they can be removed prior to demolition. So we're hoping for a July timeframe to have that property demolished. But, time will tell, and these things always take a little longer than you want, because by the time we get asbestos inspections done and contractors lined up. But yes, we are working on that particular property.
What prompted the move on this? Was it code violations or something, or what exactly got it started? Or?
Yeah, there are a number of code violations. Anybody who drives by can see those. And so we've been trying to reach out to the property owner here for some time, and we got them finally come down and take a look at the property, and they acknowledged that, this is beyond its time. It's time for this building to go away. And so we're working through those, and hopefully we can get something resolved.
You might go through the process just really quickly about that, because it's not like, I know you run into these now and then about dilapidated properties, and it's not like you can go out and just say, hey, that one looks bad, we're taking that down. You have to go through kind of a formalized process, don't you?
Correct. There's a very formal process. Obviously, people have their rights, and we've got to make sure we honor those as we go through it. So usually we start with an intent letter. Hey, Doug, what do you plan on doing with this property? Kind of what's going on? And we give you some time to respond. If we don't get a response from you, then we have to go get an inspection warrant from the judge. And so it takes time to get the evidence put together to go up and get that. Mm-hmm. And then we send you another notice that says, Dear Doug, we've kind of been in your property. We've noticed these types of violations. Usually you have 20 days to appeal and 30 days to get your own permit. Well, if you appeal, then that process can kind of drag out longer. We have to get you a notice, which either be by certified mail or personal service. Well, if you just don't take the mailing, then we got post your property. So you can start seeing how timelines can get longer and longer. And then we try to just work with property owners. Obviously, if I can get you to tear it down with your money, that helps the city out. It's better off. Might take a little longer. And that's kind of a balancing act that we have to kind of work through of time versus money. But yeah, so there is a set process out there, and we've got one that we know the courts have approved in the past, and so we try to stick to that one and just follow it as long as we can.
In recent years, can you remember, without naming the site, one that's taken the longest from start to finish to actually get resolved?
4 years.
Wow.
4 years is the longest I can recall from the first time we gave a notice in order to actual demolition.
So that proves it's not just, hey, that one doesn't look very good, it has to go. It can last a long time then.
Yes, it can.
All right. Third question, and this one in just this morning, a person was wondering about the vehicle charging station next to the Carnegie Building there. What's the status on that? Is it going to be used at some point or what?
So we've run into a snag on that one. We have the charger. It's sitting in storage right now. Pat Feist and the guys are ready to install it any time. However, the company we got the charger from somehow has linked our account to the Homestead National Monument. And so when we try to get our charger up and running, they're saying, well, it's already in service out the Homestead. And we explained to them, no, it's not. It's sitting in a box in our office. And Pat, and bless Pat, because he's been working on this now for a year. And he just keeps going round and round with this company trying to explain to him that, no, we are a separate entity from Homestead National Monument. They're not us. And we're struggling to get through that. And so that's the hang up right now. It's there. It's ready to go. The sign's been painted. Everything's ready. It's just a matter of getting the company to understand that we are not the same as the Homestead, and we need to install our charger and turn it on.
Have you invited that company down to visit the site, which is right next to the police department and the city building? They don't buy that? Or
They don't buy it, no. So I know Pat had reached out. He found some people in Omaha that could help kind of go through this process with us, and so we are working on it. I do ask Pat about every 30 days kind of where we're at on it, and I think he's ready for it to be done as well.
Yeah. Not too long ago, I don't know, a year or two ago, you bought a Tesla, the city did, an electric car. How's that been working out for you? The shared between departments on things or what?
Yeah, it shares between departments, and you can still charge it. You can plug it into any wall outlet and charge it. It just takes a little longer. So we are still able to use it. We're learning how it works and what kind of the range is for it. Linking it back is no problem. That's very easy, runs well. Omaha and back, you're going to have to charge it at Omaha. And so, but for an in-town vehicle, it works great. I asked Hannah the other day kind of what been the maintenance cost on that vehicle since we got it, a year ago now. Zero.
Wow.
You had no oil changes, nothing like that. So then trying to evaluate, okay, what makes sense, that versus some other vehicles that don't leave town that are normal gas vehicles. How does that work for us moving forward? So far it works fine. Takes a little time to get used to driving it. Just drives a little different, but working well.
Seems like the two big questions with electric cars are when are charging stations going to become more common, and will the range of the vehicles ever change as development of batteries and systems gets better, and will you have to charge every 100 miles, 200 miles, or will you get up to about a 400 or 500 mile or something? But I guess that's yet to be seen.
Right. And as I said, for us, for an in-town vehicle, it works great.
Yeah.
So yes, it does have its limitations, and it should, again, try to just understand those and what works for you.
Okay. Monday night at the city council meeting, the council formally approved the renewed economic development program using local sales tax, which will go into effect next spring. You're still on the current one through then. I think the margin of approval was 58%, something like that. That outcome, did that surprise you at all? I mean, economic development, you would think, oh, yeah, sure, 80% approval, 20%. It was kind of a split. I mean, it wasn't really close, but did the margin surprise you at all on that? Or
you go back and look, and the margin was better than the last time we passed it. But yes, it always surprises me. You would think that it would be a relatively easy thing to agree to. Especially when sales tax dollars don't increase, we're not increasing taxes anywhere, all those other kind of big hurdles that you would see and implementing such a plan, and we didn't have those. To me, it's just, again, we have to go out and do a better job of informing people what we're doing, how we're using the money, help them see some of the progress we're seeing. I also understand economic development's a long-term game. I mean, we go out and we kiss a lot of frogs before something turns into a prince, and just it's a grind sometimes.
Yeah.
But all in all, we're pleased to see it pass, and we're excited to continue to use the program.
Under the new program, when it starts about a little bit less than a year from now, what are there new uses you'll be able to use that funding for that you don't have right now in the current program, and what might they be?
There's, I believe, 2 new uses that were listed in the state statute this time, as opposed to last time we renewed our program. One has to do, I think, with making movies, and the other had to do with some childcare. I don't see us making a lot of movies. The childcare one I can see us using, but the movie making one, no, we probably will never use.
I see. And the reason you put it on the ballot this year is what, to avoid a special election? Is that basically it, or what? Exactly?
So yeah, you have to approve it at an election, and our one expires, I believe, like April 1st or March 31st of next year. So you start looking at the calendar, and it's either had to be the primary or the general election of 22, and so. We picked the primary one. That way you had a backup date if need be. Yeah. So, it's kind of just the calendar we looked at.
All right. Before we take a break here, water park season underway, and I can't remember what the weather was fairly good on Memorial Day. It wasn't outstandingly hot or whatever, but off to a pretty good start so far that you know of?
Yeah, I think it's off to a pretty good start. We need some warmer days to warm the water up. A couple of people I've talked to have been there, so, water's still a little chilly, but, what do you expect in early part of the season? But I think things are going well down there. I haven't heard any real problems or complaints. As always, like anything else, they always continue to look for employees. So if you got your swimming certificate out there, your lifeguarding certificate, give them a call, and we'll hook you up with a job.
You've talked in the past about the future of that facility, and are there new things you can add? Are there features? Could it be expanded? Of course, you have the fire station you're paying for, and that's first and foremost. Is that still on the table, though, at some point in, say, the next 5 or 10 years, as far as maybe taking a look at a way or two to spruce up the park or add some features at all?
Yes, we did a study here a couple of years ago looking at things we could add to the water park. We understand that it's again, it's time for some upgrades to it. But yes, the city sat down and looked and said, do we want a fire station or a water park? And we made a decision. I think it was a good one.
Yeah.
And so without having to try to take on some additional debt right now, we'll try to get the fire station paid down and then circle back to the water park and look to make some upgrades to it.
How long will it take to pay the fire station off, roughly?
I think we've got, 9 years left on it?
Okay, so don't look for any pool improvements maybe right away, but it's still on the board out there.
Correct.
In the future. Okay. 228-5923 if you have a question for Tobias Tempelmeyer, Beatrice City Administrator and Board of Public Works Manager. Back on Ask the Mayor today with the Beatrice City Administrator and Board of Public Works Manager Tobias Tempelmeyer. Monday, Council approved sale of 10 lots in the Gage County Industrial Park. I think east and south a little bit of where Zephyr Towers property is, in that area there. What's going to be done with that property?
So we've been in contact with a company. They're represented by a law firm out of Omaha, and contacted the city, inquired about buying these lots. We've negotiated a price. So right now we're going through the due diligence period. At this time, it's still too early to talk about what the project is or when they would get started. Hopefully, everything clears through the due diligence process. We'll be able to give you information a little bit more.
Any kind of estimation on employment from the operation at some point, or is there kind of a general area that is it 10, 15, 20 workers or anything?
At this point, no, we're not allowed to really talk about those kind of things as far as number of employment goes or type of work. But again, having worked with this company and seeing what they do in the other places, we're excited to hopefully get them here.
It's economic development one way or another.
That's right.
All right. Not too far from there, there was at 6th and Sargent Street, I think off the northeast corner there, council acted on a access agreement for a car wash business. What's the plan there?
So again, we've been working with a company that wants to build a car wash at that location there. So the northeast corner of 6th and Sargent Street. As everybody recalls, there is an access road that comes down along Highway 77. And so we were trying to figure out how to get that to continue further south there. Most access roads you see now are pushed a little farther back in the property and don't exit right into the intersections. We were trying to work with adjacent property owners to see if we couldn't put an access road to the east of where this car wash would go. We were not able to get that done. And so the access agreement basically says that they can build an entrance off of Sargent Street today. If and when the access road gets built further to the east of their property, they'll tear out their access off of Sargent Street and use the access road.
Okay. As I was looking at the map, the new access that would be used, is it fairly close to the intersection though, off Sargent or how?
It's a couple hundred feet back.
I see.
More distance is better on some of those. So if we can push them a little farther to the east, that's great. But it'll be farther back than the one on the south side of Sargent Street there at 6th.
I see. Okay. All right. Consulting contract for industrial wastewater permit at the wastewater pollution control plant. Not always the most fun thing to talk about. It's probably the most ignored major investment that the city makes. But what's that all about, to that contract there?
So the state just requires us to have a stormwater prevention plan at each one of the different facilities. They're good for about 5 years. NDEE now come out with a new permit that you have to get updated. And so we contract with JEO to help us get that permit down there up and get it in compliance. We have until sometime in September to get that done. We also have those permits at the landfill, at the compost site. But there we're contracting with Burns & Mac, who's the engineer out at the landfill already, to do that work for us. So, yeah, unfortunately, sometimes the state comes out with a new rule that we have to abide by, and then we have to go hire some engineers to come up with these studies.
You've been in the process of making some significant improvements at that plant. What's next down the line in the future? What do you see are there further improvements being made, or what's the next, I guess, big project that might be on the horizon?
So the next big project down at the wastewater plant is grit removal. We had Olson's come in. They did an initial study of our grit to see what can be done there. So then kind of the next step will be to hire them to actually design the improvements that we'll make. I mean, that next step is, another $2 million process to get added on down there. So grit down there, a lot of it is snail shells.
Right.
So you have a lot of snails and whatnot are just in the plant. That's what helps clean the water as it kind of goes through. Obviously, those things eventually die and their shells come off, and then you just got all these shells that you got to get rid of. And so there's actually some sand and stuff in the water, but that's mostly where it comes from. And so I know James has been working with Olson's to get that process done, but that's the next one. And then eventually we'll have to build an actual whole new plant. Now, all the pieces we're doing will still be incorporated into the new plant. They'll still work, but you'll probably change the process in which you use to clean the water down there. But all these other things, improvements we're making, will still be used and still be part of that process.
How far is that away, a new plant, would you say?
It all depends on your permit. So we have a permit that comes up this next year, and if we're still meeting our permit limits, then you're looking to another 5 years down the road. And if for some reason the state puts on a limit on ammonia or something new and our current process can't meet those requirements, you're looking to build it in about 3 years.
See, it's a necessary part of local government, though.
That's right.
Yeah. Clean City Week outcome this spring. You had just held one last fall, tried it in October to do that. Numbers were down a little bit this spring. I suppose understandably, people only have so many big items they can get rid of, but how did you see it as far as it came out this year?
I think it went well. Talking to the street department, I think it worked well on their end. I think the timing worked well for them. And I think the biggest thing for us was seeing the mattresses work better. We've tried a couple different processes. We've had some issues with them, and I think we had a good response from the public with the process we used this time, having them deliver them out to the compost site. Again, I did not see or hear about people dumping them at random locations. So I think that process went well. We do know we need some things we need to work on, and some of that is on getting people signed up and making sure that you get a confirmation email. And those we're working on. We'll make sure those are in place for next year. But all in all, I think it was a good time.
You allow quite a bit of time, and there's multiple ways to learn about it and read the rules and kind of get accustomed to it. But still, you get some stragglers that probably come to you at the last moment and say, hey, I didn't hear about this. Can I still register? I don't know if you ever solved that, do you? Totally? Or
I don't know how you solve that one either. I think we talk about it a lot and a lot of different ways and methods and means. But yeah, you still find a way not to reach some people, and we'll try to find do a better job of that in the next time. But yeah, I don't know how you solve that one.
Well, look for one next May, right around that same time frame. It seems to work out pretty well. We'll be back to wrap up Ask the Mayor in just a moment. I have about 6 or 7 minutes left on our Ask the Mayor program today with Beatrice City Administrator and BPW Manager Tobias Tempelmeyer. Of course, one of the big projects you have out there that will be coming before the council in the form of kind of a more formal recommendation from a consultant soon is the Lincoln Corridor project. Not cheap. It'll be a pretty extensive project in one way or another.
Right. I think the process we've used has been a good process. We've had a couple public meetings. We've had stuff out there on social media and whatnot, so those who couldn't make the public meetings could still give their input on the process. JEO is wrapping up all the final comments they got and incorporating those into a final report, which I see coming to council probably sometime in July by the time we get there. And then, then it's a matter of sitting down and looking at this and, okay, how do you eat this elephant? Because it's a big project. And so, what parts or pieces can you pick off first and do? And how do you do it so that everything else lines up together? And that was really the big thing. We knew the project would be big, but we wanted to have an understanding of the whole project before you started on it. Because once we put concrete down, it's there for a long time and you can't move it again later. And so we just want to make sure we had a plan for everything. But yeah, hopefully the final study here soon.
Then also you have new schools going to be built in East Beatrice, and there are access things about that. There's utilities and things, and all of this is kind of meshing at the same time. Can you handle both at once, or how do you see that?
From a work standpoint, yes, I think you can handle both at the same time. From a monetary standpoint, no, you can't. The city has limited funds, and we're not able to take on all those projects at one time. So the school is having some traffic studies done at their location, and we're using that to see what needs to be done there on Lincoln Street and 33rd Street. And we're working with the school and having those conversations about what infrastructure they need and how to partner together. So those, I think you'll see come together here over the next couple of months on those particular projects. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a lot of projects, and we are out there looking for other grant money. Everybody knows there's a lot of infrastructure money floating around, and we're taking our shots at them. We submitted a grant the other day for, I think, $25 million for different road projects, and chances to get it are slim, but you got to try.
Yeah. The little access off 33rd Street where they've put the rock down there, is that going to be like the construction access to that site, or what exactly?
Yeah, that's the plans. That's the construction access. Again, we're talking to the school. They kind of asked if they could have one put in, and so the city agreed, and we went out and put the tube in for them, and the school, I think, put the rock down here recently, so you can see it's baby steps, but we're moving in that direction.
Okay. West of the Gage County Courthouse on a portion of 4th Street and then on a portion on Lincoln Street, about a block each side, they're going to concrete that. How soon are you coming up on that project?
I believe that contract, I think the finish date is sometime in August, generally, maybe early September. And then the contractor, I think, has 60 days from the date they start to go in there. We have not yet set a schedule for when that project will start, but once it does, it'll get moving right away, and it'll take some time. It'll be a disruption for everybody who travels or drives or lives in that area. But contractor, I think they'll do the best they can getting in there and getting out.
Since the fire department located in their new quarters, I know trucks used to come down that intersection quite often because it was a way to get to like BSDC, East Beatrice, Northeast Beatrice, the quickest route. Has that changed the dynamics of how much wear and tear that road gets now, or not really? Because I know it still sees a lot of commuter traffic from like Fairbury to Lincoln and back and forth there.
Right. I mean, it's an undeclared bypass that people have learned. If I shoot through there and down Grant Street and out the 2nd, I can get out to the west side pretty quick. So you'll continue to see that. But yes, you're right. Moving the fire station did change some traffic patterns as well. But we still need to upgrade that intersection around 4th and Grant and 4th and Lincoln. Okay.
One item that was before the Beatrice Planning and Zoning Commission Monday night, and I don't go to the P&Z meetings like I used to. They're right before the council now. They used to be on Tuesday nights,
correct?
Most of the time. But they did approve a permit for a business idea, which is going to go in at 19th and Court or so in East Beatrice.
Correct. So at 19th and Court there, again, this would be the northwest corner there, the old Spady Runcie building. We had some individuals from the community that are looking to buy that property and put a dog kennel in there. In order to make it work within zoning rules, they had to get a special use permit. And so they applied, and Planning and Zoning approved it the other night. So no further action is required from the city as far as that approval goes. So they've got their special use permit. I believe the property is set for closing sometime here in the middle of June. And then after that, hopefully they'll get up and get their business running.
So it doesn't have to come before the council for any approval. Is that mainly because it just stays the same zoning, or what exactly?
Correct. Since the zoning itself is not changing, special use permits are handled entirely by Planning and Zoning Commission.
The reason for that type of project, of course, that would be the owners, but is there some tie to local veterinarians as far as working with them as far as a kennel operation? Because I know some of the vets, of course, you have the Humane Society, which has its own holding area out there, but is there a kind of a demand for that or something?
You know, if you're reading through their business model, their business plan that's out there, their records or their information shows that there's demand for dog kenneling out there. I think they've talked to the local vets. I think there is some there, but at least what their report says is maybe the vets kind of want to back that down a little bit. If not, get out of it entirely. I don't know, but they see a demand out there from the public for more dog kenneling, and there's not a lot around here, and so they think they can make a go of it, and so they're going to give it a try.
A couple of other things. We're running out of time here, so I ask you to go through these pretty quickly here. Kind of tough to go through these quickly, but trail connection, 24th to 26th Street. I know you tried for grant funding there. Wasn't successful on that round. Is that still kind of on the schedule if you can kind of handle it a different way funding-wise? Or
Right. So we're looking at maybe using what's left of our CDBG revolving loan funds. We're trying to wrap up a few other projects with that, and then it'll tell us how much we have left in that budget. And if so, we'll look to do that trail project.
I see a few students walking that route every once in a while, or biking on it during the school year. Not a huge use, but still, it would be nice to kind of get that connected to the...
It'd be nice to get it connected. Honestly, one kid walking out on the highway is probably too many.
Yeah. I guess we don't have enough time to address this, but just in general, revenue atmosphere of the city right now in terms of sales tax revenue and everything. Things going pretty well so far?
Yeah, things are going well for the city on the revenue side of things. Don't have any complaints there. Things continue to come in strong.
So paying off bonds for the fire station, no problem, and everything. It should be.
Yeah, no problems on the fire station. In fact, I think we're a little ahead of schedule on that one. So hopefully those continue to come in at a strong pace, and we'll be able to get that bond paid off quickly.
All right, Tobias, thanks for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Anytime.